Pulisic clipping it in. McKinney's there! Weston McKennie! The breakthrough, the 25th minute. And one 20-year-old to the other.
The 2019 CONCACAF Gold Cup semifinals are set. The U.S. are moving on to take on Jamaica in Nashville. A 1-0 victory against Curaçao. There were nervous moments for a while there. It seemed like the Islanders might make a push, might make history. It was not to be. Greg Berhalter is moving on to the other side of the bracket. Haiti and Mexico. That one goes down on Tuesday in Glendale. The winner of both these matches will meet on Sunday, July 7th. That's a big day for soccer at Soldier Field in Chicago, Illinois. Welcome to Club and Country. Welcome to the AT&T studios in Midtown Manhattan. I am Andrew Wiebe with Charlie Davies, Matt Doyle, Bobby Warshaw. 12 goals scored, no goals allowed, guys. 4 wins, great. Everything's great. It's all hunky-dory, peachy good, right? No, check U.S. national team Twitter. Get inside these guys' minds. It's a little nervous right now. That was not what we were expecting. Here are the highlights from U.S. Curaçao in the quarterfinals from Philly. Christian Pulisic, he would make a difference in this one. He had a couple nice moments to get this started, but that was really the best we saw from the U.S., though.
It was, and it was the point I made in the pregame show is you want to come out in the first 15 minutes and just end them. You just want to destroy a smaller team like this, take all the confidence out of them. And it looked, in the first 3-5 minutes, it looked like the U.S. were going to do that. And then this goal came against the run of play, like, okay, now it's going to happen. And it never did. By 25-30 minutes in, even down 1-0, Curaçao was like, you know what? We can play against these guys. And for the rest of the game, they absolutely did.
Weston McKennie's second international goal and his 12th cap. We've seen that up before. Aaron Long was the recipient from Pulisic, his third assist of the tournament. And then Charlie, Curaçao started applying pressure.
They just kept going and going. They felt confidence. And anytime we gave pressure, it was like we were not fully committed to pressing. And they broke through and they would counter. It was not a performance that you look at and you're like, job well done, I'm excited for the semifinals. It's more like, I'm a little worried because Jamaica's a better version of Curaçao.
Bacuna, the left foot, Zach Steffen, huge in this match.
Yeah,
Bobby, they outshot the U.S. Curaçao did.
It's not a good sign when your goalkeeper is the man of the match in the game at home against Curaçao. I feel like that's the summary right there. Call it a day. End of show.
Congratulations to Curaçao, even in the loss here. This is their first knockout round at the Gold Cup, just their second tournament overall. 5 years ago, they were the Netherlands Antilles, and now they're knocking off some of the big boys, getting the job done. It was not enough in this one. You have to applaud their effort, but a lot of people, as we have just now, are going to look at this U.S. performance and say, oh, well, maybe job not completed. Maybe progress was missing here for Greg Berhalter. I don't know that there is a point of progress in this game that you can point to and say, big step forward. Is there? Can you guys help me out?
There's no big step forward, but at the end of the day, they progressed. That's the job at hand is let's get through, let's get to the semifinals. They did that. So when you're looking at it from that standpoint, job well done, executed, perfect. But then when you talk about the play, the offensive play, they had the second shot on goal in the 90th minute against Curaçao. That's who we're talking about here. We're not talking about Mexico. We're not talking about Costa Rica. This is Curaçao. We only had 2 shots on goal in the 90th minute. That's not good enough. Jossie Zardes, it looked like the pressure was weighing on him with Josie coming back to full fitness because he didn't look the same. He looked a little nervous, tentative, and he didn't get on the ball. You saw him come back, and things weren't working out for him. So I wonder if with Josie starting to play well and getting healthy, if now he's thinking, my time's up.
It was bad. And Andrew, your question is a question of growth. That it's okay to not play well. It's okay to struggle through a result as long as you feel like there's growth. But it didn't feel like there's a ton of growth. And when I watch this team play, in soccer, you want to turn off your brain. You want to be able to think through the game and solve problems. But you generally want to be able to make your actions without thinking. They're natural. You get to be in the zone, in the flow state. And I can't recall ever seeing a professional soccer team think as much action per action as this team, which, yeah, they're trying to implement ideas, but if it's this much of a struggle at this point, with as little training time as you have with a national to create muscle memory, that was really concerning. I don't know how you work your way out of that.
How much of it is, do you think, they were overthinking, and how much of it was maybe this is a trap game?
It was definitely a bit of a trap game, but I don't think that excuses the Matt, it's not overthinking, right?
Yep.
It's not. It's doing what you're supposed to do. It's thinking your way through what we all acknowledge is a complicated system that Greg Berhalter implements. You're not just passing the ball around for the sake of passing it. Every pass is intentional, but if you have to think about the intentionality about every single pass, that makes it harder, and that's why they're not playing well right now. But yeah, part of that is the fact that it's a trap game.
I would say trap game, but when you look at how they started, there was no signs of a trap game because they were explosive, they were energetic. You saw Christian pushing to get that goal, that opener. And so I thought, okay, this is encouraging, this is what we want to see. But when you talk about interchanging and having Paul Arriola, who was invisible for 90 minutes, maybe you saw him pop up twice in the attacking half and the attacking third, but largely ineffective. He was invisible. Ineffective on the offensive standpoint. He did get back, he did track back, which you can depend on him to do, but this is not a team where I'm like, oh, they're going to attack in a variety of different ways. Different guys are looking to attack and create opportunities in the attacking half. You saw Tyler Boyd get in there, trying to do too much, got the ball stuck under his feet, was a little bit slow in his play. And then Tim Ream from the back. I watched him a lot in this match to see where is he playing the ball, where is he trying to expose the defense. A lot of it was sideways or backwards, and when he's defending, it's backpedal, 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 and you're giving the attacker more time and space to either pick out an opponent or give him time to decide what he wants to do.
Not sure any player in this match is going to get high ratings, let's say, for the United States. Some context with Curaçao. We're talking about a trap game. Well, why might it be that? Knocked off Jamaica in the 2017 Caribbean Cup. Knocked off Qatar, who we saw be really respectable at Copa America. A draw and a win against Bolivia. They just won King's Cup. They did well in Nations League qualifying. So this is a team of professionals that showed their mettle in this game and had some opportunities to win. But there's got to be some concern for the U.S. moving forward. It's not just about this game. The competition gets harder. Jamaica is on the other side. I think back to 2015. I was in Atlanta for that insane doubleheader when the U.S. lost and Panama and Mexico just completely lost control. Should we be concerned, U.S. fans, looking ahead to the semifinals?
Yeah, I absolutely think that the U.S. should be concerned. To me, this reinforced a couple of hard truths about the player pool. If you looked at the way the U.S. were able to connect the defense to the attack, with Christian Pulisic playing as a number 10, he floats out of the central zone. He floats to the wing all the time. So that suddenly leaves two guys. It leaves Bradley and McKennie as the only two central midfielders. So you're losing the numbers game. That means the only way you're going to connect the defense to the attack is if Jossie Zardes, if your center forward, is dropping back into the middle and you're playing to his feet. And Jossie did a nice job of it on the goal. I think it was a 14-pass sequence that led to the goal, and that's great and everything, but that might have been his only good touch on the night when playing with his back to goal. So often, his decision-making was way too slow. I do think that gets better if Jozy Altidore is in there, and hopefully Jozy Altidore will be in there, 60, 70 minutes against Jamaica, and then however long he can go in the final if the U.S. make it. I'm much more concerned about the defense. We played most of the game in that mid-block 4-2-2-2 that Greg Berhalter diagrammed for us when he was here 6-8 months ago, and it's nice on theory, but in practice, it lost us central midfield because Michael Bradley can't win those one-on-one battles anymore. He just can't. And Weston McKennie, another thing we talked about in pregame, he had a wasted year at Schalke. He absolutely had a wasted year because he has not gotten enough reps in central midfield to really know how to do the job. And I think we saw that on both sides of the ball tonight. So when the engine room goes bad, it tends to all go bad, and that's what we saw in this game.
And I'd like to add to the fact that when you say engine room on the defensive side of the ball, when you're pressing and you have the attackers pressing their backs, if that engine room is not where they should be and working as hard as they should be, then you have spaces and gaps. And Curaçao was able to find those spaces and gaps. So at times I would watch the front three when they pressed, it didn't feel like it was full commitment. It didn't feel like 100%. It felt like 80, maybe 70, 80%. Let's try and press and see what they do with it, how they handle it. Well, they handled it well. That they had more than enough space to play out, and then that caused a lot of problems because you saw as the game went on, that gap started to get bigger and bigger, and it allowed Curaçao to gain momentum.
Charlie, you nailed it with the full commitment concept, because when you defend, regardless of where it is, right, if it's a middle block, you're drawing your line of confrontation, and you're going gung-ho whenever they cross that line of confrontation. We talk about pressing. The whole idea of that is you draw the line of confrontation farther up the field, and when they cross whatever line you determine, you get ready to go in for the kill. And they were disjointed in how they went about that. Curaçao would cross the line, the strikers would go as Christian Pulisic up there as Zardes, and they would step. Then the next line didn't look like they were in the same, let's go hunt. And I think the common word around teams around the world now is hunt. As soon as that pass is made, you go to the next person, you go and close the ball. And Pulisic and Zardes would go, but the next 8 wouldn't. Areola has to go. When Areola goes, you're on a line with Tim Ream. He goes. When Pulisic goes, Michael Bradley has to go. And it was so weird. To me at this point in 2019, when you talk about world football, that should be a given. Your striker goes, you abandon your zone, you go man-to-man, you step in, and yes, there's space around you, but you play Aaron Long, you play Walker Zimmerman, because these guys can cover ground. We see them do it in Major League Soccer. You have to trust that they can come in, and as a unit, you either suffocate space or you force them to kick it behind you, in which case, good luck trying to outrun Aaron Long. It was so weird how they were so disjointed. And yes, we can talk about a lot of things with how the team is set up, but there also has to be some sense of this is how you play football, this is how you press, and a little bit of accountability individually.
Maybe the consolation prize here is that Jamaica limped into the semifinal as well. Did not exactly run Panama off the field. They got a penalty kick. That was how they got through to their 3rd straight semifinal. We're in a kind of a stage of the national team for the last 2 years, guys, where we're constantly asking, how concerned are you? How do you feel about the U.S. national team right now? There are 4 options: great, good, not good, and horrible. And this is after a win, yes, but one that's not going to inspire people. So it does not surprise me to see 50% of the people that we asked on Twitter go with not good. Is this accurate as to how you all feel, or do you see this game as more of a fluke that can be pushed past, just a price to be paid on your way to the final, perhaps a championship?
I still don't think we're going to win the Gold Cup, so I'm not going to say on the way to a championship, but I think there were like a lot of teachable moments in this. And the top-down 1,000-foot view, I think that the player pool is getting a lot better. I think that if Tyler Adams is there and if Paxton Pomykal is there, frankly, then we're not talking about losing the midfield. We're talking about overrunning them and suffocating them and not allowing them room to play. I think either of those guys in midfield would just, in terms of personnel, greatly increase this team's ability to succeed at the things they kind of failed at today. My hopes aren't particularly high for the rest of this tournament. I do think the U.S. will get past Jamaica because Jamaica can't pass the ball like Curaçao did. But that final against Mexico might not be pretty.
It's funny because I think I'm in the same boat as you in the sense that it's never as bad as we think it is. Mm-hmm. It's never as good as we think it is. You saw the Jamaica game, the friendly prior to the Gold Cup. We lose 1-0. You could think that it's the end of the world, that this program's in shambles. It's not that. They responded. I think after a match like this, you have to think they didn't play well. That's a fact. But they still got a result. They got a win and a shutout. They'll use this to motivate them to play against Jamaica. And Jamaica is a team that relies on their athleticism. Because they do tend to get out of position, they get caught out of position, they use their speed to track backing. So if they can use this game to realize, you know what, we have to be much more clinical when we finish, when we get chances, but also in our press. If we press the right way and we can get them to turn over in their half, we're going to get a lot of chances to score because of their positional lack of position, because of how they kind of just try and gung forward and get guys to circle around the ball.
Let's take a closer look at the goal that changed this match. 25th minute, Christian Pulisic, who else? 3 assists this tournament so far, finding his partner, Weston McKennie. Those two are boys. They see each other in Germany all the time. Bobby, walk us through what happened here.
Well, the number one thing is that Christian Pulisic got isolated wide. We can talk about a lot of things, but the thing that seems most obvious with this team right now is you have to get Christian Pulisic wide. If you're not going to be able to do anything else well, he is so talented that I know there was a lot to be made about whether I thought he should have a lockdown spot. He should be a starter, right? Those are two different questions. And if you are going to start him, you have to start him out wide. When you get him isolated like that, this is his main thing he's good at, right? We could talk about Christian Pulisic being a very good player. A large percentage of what makes him a very good player, a large part of what makes up his overall FIFA score, is that his ability to run at players 1v1. So it's so weird to me how you set up a whole system and you take away your player's best attribute, not to mention probably the second best attribute on this team is Weston McKennie's ability in the air. So why not isolate Pulisic wide to do whatever he does, shoot or cross, to then set up Pulisic or McKennie in the end?
That's where Pomacall would help. I think if you, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but if you put Pomacall into that central midfield where Pulisic plays and put Pulisic out on the left flank, I think it helps the U.S. so much on that side of the ball because you get Christian, even on this run, he starts wide and then he dives inside. He's not playing like a central playmaker. And then the lack of that defensively caused the problem. It caused a lot of issues for the U.S. Like the one good moment we had in the second half was when he tracked back from in that 4-2-2 to make it suddenly kind of like a 4-1-4-1. And like he won the ball in central midfield. Just getting numbers there matters.
And if you watch that again on the cross, Gyasi Zardes is stuck. He's not moving, and you expect your striker to make a near post run to create movement in that box, and we didn't see it.
Hey, Matt, I want to touch on what you said about Paxton Pomacall, because I think it speaks to something larger, and it goes back to how are you feeling about the national team right now, and it seems one of the big themes, and I'm still in this from people on Twitter because it hadn't occurred to me until I saw that conversation was, does the player pool fit what Greg Berhalter is trying to do? Because it feels to me like this player pool is similar to the one that Bob Bradley had, and Bob Bradley said, I can't play the way Greg Berhalter is trying to play. And the second part to that, if the player pool does fit it, are there different players that would fit what he's trying to do better? Because early on, the conversation was about player profiles, players having their skill set match the role in the system. A Kellen Acosta doesn't make it in, a Russell Canals doesn't make it in. But is it time to look at the second iteration of that and say, all right, maybe a Weston McKennie or maybe some of these players, to provide an example, doesn't match that skill set to that position. I need to find them a new role or readjust what that role is to fit that player in this player pool.
It's a question that should be on everybody's mind, but I'm okay if we don't start really addressing it until after this Gold Cup. Like, let's actually see what we do against Jamaica and hopefully Mexico.
So go all in right now.
Go all in right now.
Don't change
now. But like, there's going to be a period of reassessment because I think, I have a lot of admiration for what Michael Bradley has done over his career. He looks like he's at the very end right now. Like he can't move his feet, and a big part of the reason why we're not getting pressure to the ball in central midfield is that Michael Bradley can't move his feet. Tyler Adams sure can. Like, okay, so you put Tyler Adams in as a 6. He's not going to play it the same way Michael Bradley does. He doesn't spread the field like Bradley does. He doesn't hit those passes into the pockets that Bradley does. Suddenly you have a team that probably does play against the ball. But we're not there yet. We don't have that personnel yet. And like maybe playing like this now is something that'll be good for Christian Pulisic and Weston McKennie and Walker Zimmerman and Nick Lima and on down the list. And if we take an L, I won't be happy about it, but you can learn from it.
We're not there yet, as you say. Is Josie Altidore just not there yet from a physical standpoint? Charlie, why didn't he play in this game?
That can only be the explanation, is he's not physically there, and they're taking as much time as they can to make sure he's going to be fully healthy for the semifinals and finals. Because when you look at this match, it was screaming Josie Altidore. It needed an energy boost. It needed experience up top. It needed someone who could check into those spaces, into those gaps, to pull out those Curaçao defenders for the wingers to expose that back line. That was non-existent today. There was no balls in behind either from Zardes. I didn't see balls where he was making these runs in behind to pull out, to stretch the field, to give more space for Christian Pulisic underneath. You didn't see that. And so when you lack a striker, when there's a lack of pace, a lack of ideas, and a lack of positioning, being able to check in different spots, just being unpredictable. You saw a predictable striker who was stagnant and who looked like he was under stress. That's what I saw when I saw Gyasi Zardes. This wasn't the Gyasi Zardes we saw against Trinidad and Tobago.
He did not get the service either. You mentioned Paul Areola. Didn't see much from him in this game other than some of those defensive contributions. We'd seen some attack from him, some offense, some box score numbers. Tyler Boyd had been doing that as well. What happened to those guys in this match? Why were they so ineffective?
Well, I might add as well that Jozy Altidore also figures out ways to get involved when you're not getting service. So figure out ways, especially in international level. There's games where you're playing against a Brazil or a Spain and you're not going to get that much possession. You have to figure out ways to still get involved. And maybe that's defensive positioning. Maybe being in a position where if you could check back and steal it from a defensive midfielder and get a toe poke to spark a counterattack, and the next thing you know, you're being released into space, great. Or it's just being ready for that one chance. Being ready for that ball when he got a cross in the 88th minute to put that in the back of the net, because sometimes in games you're only going to get one chance in international level soccer. And if you can get that chance, you have to finish it, because sometimes that's all you're graded on is that one opportunity.
So Jamaica on Wednesday, are we going to still have this same conversation? Are we going to have the Jozy Gyasi conversation? I mean, we've had it so many times. It's like we beat it into the ground. Gyasi did his job in the games in the group stage. Nobody, I would argue, really did their job at a high level in this match. So while you can lump him in, you lump him in with everybody else. It's got to be Jozy, right? Or is this just a situation where it's going to be touch and go and it is a health issue and we just may not know?
Listen, it's a hard thing to say because Jozy's a good professional, he's a good person, and it's hard to criticize. But also at some point, you have to legitimately say, you've got to give it to Jozy. I think Berhalter did the right thing, making Jozy wait for it, making him feel like he was a little bit under pressure and it wouldn't be handed to him. But you also could have had somebody else do that. You could have had somebody else, non-Gyasi Zardes, fulfill that role, and he did a good service to his country. But it's time to move on to either Jozy Altidore or whoever's next.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think we have some film of what Gyasi does right. We saw it against Trinidad and Tobago, and here it is. It's his recognition, on that pass from Michael Bradley and understanding where the next play is going to be. We talk about a structured system from Greg Berhalter. Gyasi's played and he understands the structure. Now, as Bradley gets on the ball, right here, Gyasi sees this and he understands, I'm going right to the 6. I'm going to get inside my man. I'm going to have a tap in. Now, the same pattern of play against Panama in the third group stage game. We saw it from Jozy Altidore. His recognition wasn't quite as fast. It's like the ball's cycling around at a central midfielder. He's going to spray it wide to the overlapping right back. Jozy doesn't get inside his man right there. And let's just watch it again. I just want to show that his recognition doesn't happen until the ball's already over his head. That split second, Gyasi left as soon as the ball left Michael Bradley's foot. That's what Jozy has to be better at.
So, Matt, you're saying that this is a sign that Gyasi Zardes is better at it than Jozy Altidore, but I think you can go back through Jozy's career, and this would actually be more of one of the criticisms of Jozy, or one of the things that he doesn't do well. Jozy has never made hard runs to the near post. He has never been that center striker who says, my job is to just run at the goal as hard as possible and let the ball come to me. Which goes back to your original point.
Which was my job.
This is right. It's something you are very good at. You can speak to this. You can get a ton of goals just doing that. But it actually goes to a different point, which is a little bit more unpopular. Jozy is not a center striker. You can play Jozy at center striker, and people look at his physique and say he should be a number 9. In his heart, in his soul, in his mind,
he's a winger.
He's not a pure post-up number 9. He wants to come back. He wants to play. And you need someone else, a Tyler Boyd, a Jordan Morris, to play the outside striker role. So, Matt, I don't think it's about Gyasi Zardes doing something better. I think there's something we can say Jozy Altidore needs to be better at himself.
100%. But that was the point that and I'm sorry if it didn't come across. That's the point that I wanted to illustrate right there. Jozy has to be better at that because that's the kill pattern for the U.S. national team under Greg Berhalter. Mm-hmm. When the U.S. get the ball in that zone, you're the center forward. You have to know exactly where the next pass is going to come, and you have to know exactly when to be at the near post. Jozy didn't show that against Panama. I would still start him over Gyasi Zardes 100 times out of 100 because he links the play better. He will score more goals. He's just a better soccer player all around. But if you want to know when we can write Jozy's name in pen, when he makes that run and scores that goal.
I really think that comes down to sharpness and fitness. That play right there in particular is a fit, 100% healthy Jozy that's confident gets in front of that center back. One that's still, a little bit behind and still working his way towards is that run.
I just want to say, Josie did score an overhead kick to win that game. So there were the other moments, but the other ways to have
Still
that
really good.
have that kill pattern as well. Look, Zach Steffen, we needed him. And this was maybe not a game in which you thought, boy, we're going to have a big one from you, Zach. But he delivered on some of these shots outside the box, and Curaçao didn't get much inside the 18. But when they had the opportunities, he was there.
He was clutch and not giving up rebounds. There were situations where some keepers may give up a rebound. He made sure to keep it close, to keep possession of it, or to tip it out. So here was a fantastic save because again, a team like Curaçao is looking for those half chances. And all it takes is one miracle shot. His job is to make sure I'm going to stop all these miracle shots, and he did. And they relied on him when you probably wouldn't think that the U.S. would need to rely on their keeper, but Zach Steffen was there, and he bailed them out.
And it's a big positive because it's been a while since the U.S. men's team got bailed out by a goalkeeper. It's worth pointing that out, that it didn't happen in World Cup qualifying. It hasn't happened in recent friendlies. It's big that it's happened again.
Absolutely. Bakuna almost doing what Curaçao did against Jamaica, where they got that late goal from distance, the golazo that delivered them to their very first quarterfinal. A nervous game for the U.S., no doubt about it. A 1-0 win against
stinker.
Curaçao. Are we going to go stinker? Stinker is where we're going.
That was a stinker, guys.
It's a stinker, but it's a win.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll take a stinker
Always
win.
the optimist, Charles.
I'll take a stinker win.
Yeah, look, the stinker gets you to the semifinals, and that's where the U.S. find themselves against Jamaica. We saw this matchup back in 2015, July 3rd, Nashville. That's next Wednesday. Pre- and post-game shows, of course, right here on Club and Country as we prepare what U.S. fans are hoping is a final against Mexico. Or maybe they're not hoping that. Maybe they're hoping that Haiti gets through. We shall see. Let's take a look back, though, at the last time these two teams faced off in the knockout rounds of the Gold Cup. This was the 2017 final. The U.S. would go on to win this one. Josie Altidore, that is something that not many other people
That's a
in
golazo.
this player pool
That's a
can
golazo.
deliver. And the U.S. goes up. But then it got a little bit nervy because Jamaica in finals, they just find a way.
They did. I mean, I was at this game, and you could see Jamaica's belief coming out of the half. They really took it to the U.S., but then, just a nice play at the end here by Jordan Morris picking up the loose ball. Like you were saying, Charlie, everybody plays for rebounds. Everybody plays for loose balls in the box. The U.S. were the better team on that day, but they weren't dominant by any stretch.
We do not have the highlights from 2015 in Atlanta. Those did not go the U.S.'s way. Losers in that match. It was one of the final nails in the coffin for Jurgen Klinsmann as well. So let's look ahead. Jamaica, the expectation is final. A loss there would still be received badly. What do they have to do to win this game?
Jamaica's just going to counterattack. That's their game. Use their pace, use their athletes. They're going to sit back and look to counter. I thought Curaçao was going to do that today. They showed that they can play. They had some guys who were comfortable on the ball.
They were better than the Dutch.
They were fantastic today. A lot of respect to Curaçao, and I'm interested to see how far they go from here, if they can use this as a launching pad in World Cup qualifying. But this Jamaica team is full of athletes. They know these American players very well from MLS and just from battling in previous games in Gold Cup. But this is a team that has athletes. They're just going to use their pace, get forward, and look to create opportunities, penalty kicks, red cards, and just get in behind the U.S. backline. U.S. backline, when you look at Ream and Lima, because Lima likes to get high, and Ream is not the fastest of outside backs, there's opportunity there for Jamaica.
2 points I would add to that is, I think if you're Greg Berhalter in film, it's very, very positive because it goes back to the idea of thinking too much. That comes with confidence. That comes with certainty in what you're doing. So you go through the good moments, you ignore the bad moments from this game, and make sure you build players' confidence.
It'd be a pretty quick film session.
Of course, but even still, players don't really know that. There's a weird irrationality to being a player in a locker room where if you see the good moments, you're like, oh yeah, I knew they were in there. I just had to see them again. And the second part is increase the patience. The number of times that Walker Zimmerman or Aaron Long or Michael Bradley forced a pass was weird. It was so un-Columbus Crew-like from when Berhalter was there. So just build a little more patience. Be okay trying to move the ball side to side to pull the defense. Then you hit that big switch. Then you get someone isolated 1v1.
Let's take a look at some more recent highlights with the U.S. and Jamaica. That is from the friendly before this Gold Cup. You know the result from this one. It was Jamaica 1, U.S. nothing. What, if anything, Doyle, can the U.S. or Jamaica take from this match?
The problem with the main problem with the U.S. in this game was the same as the problem that we saw tonight, is that they didn't get any pressure to the ball in central midfield. If you are easy to play against, it doesn't matter if you're playing against the 100th ranked team in the world. They're going to play soccer against you, and that's what Jamaica did, and they deserved to win this game. So the U.S., they have to fix that. It's the most fundamental building block that there is in this sport of ours. You have to get pressure to the ball in midfield. If you don't do that, you will lose.
They have to get shots on goal. They only had one shot on goal in this match. One. Similar to today, where there was only two. They need to create chances. They need to get shots on goal. That's the only way that you know this U.S. team is flying and they're moving forward and they have ideas, is if they have chances. And we haven't seen that except for that Trinidad game where you were like, I'm really excited about where this attack is heading. And then they take a step backwards when you watch them today against Curaçao. It's how are we going to create chances? How are we going to generate these opportunities? And that's by patience.
Now, I want to go back to the point you made about being easy to play against, because this might be the most important thing with this team right now. For whatever type of soccer you want to play, however beautiful you want the game to be, you have to play at a certain intensity level, because you see it all across the world. Teams are going to try and make the game chaotic, and if they make the game chaotic, despite what you're trying to do, that's going to win. That's going to beat out this idea of beautiful soccer every single time. And you see the teams that play the best soccer, whether it's Manchester City or Liverpool, or we've seen in CONCACAF with Mexico. They're also the meanest, the most cynical, the nastiest teams who can out-compete you and make out-intensity you as well. And the U.S. isn't there. They're trying to do the soccer without trying to do the competing part.
We shall see if they can add those two parts together against Jamaica in the semis and perhaps on against Haiti or Mexico in the final. Let's go back out to Philadelphia now. Susanna Collins has our AT&T call to the field with Ramses Sandoval.
Well, we meet again, my good friend Ramses, here in Philadelphia. Okay, another 1-0 win for the U.S. We knew that they were going to be favorites heading into this one, but it wasn't as easy for them, perhaps, that we thought it was going to be, was it?
And I saw you, 72 hours ago, and I'm not going to give the scoreline I did, publicly apologizing. Please don't show that clip. Listen, I was dead wrong, as I think many fans were. I think the 26 and change thousand that came today to Lincoln Financial Field, we're hoping, if you're a soccer fan and you know about Curaçao, 79th rank, a team really that doesn't have a professional league, in their second Gold Cup. They had never won a Gold Cup game prior to this 2019, lost all three in 2017. Their first Gold Cup against a six-time champion, the United States of America. I'll stop. You probably thought that it was going to be, 4, 5, 6, 7. It was not. Credit to Curaçao. I mean, they were compact. They were organized. They have some very good players. Obviously, their goalkeeper at PSV, Vacuna, has played over 100 games at Aston Villa. They were fast. And listen, they lost 1-0, and they could have tied the game at the end. And I think this was definitely not the best game under the Berhalter era. I don't know if it was the rival. I don't know if it was Curaçao's style of play. But, it wasn't just me, right? You saw them kind of just... It looked like a preseason match for minutes there, didn't it?
It definitely did. And I feel the same way I did after the last match, where it's just there's something to be desired. And there's a level that they haven't hit yet. Mm-hmm. And so for you, when you watch this team, especially when you've watched the last two games, what is it that's missing? What would you like to see more of from this U.S. team?
A word that comes to mind is intensity. Mm-hmm. They're well managed. Greg's very smart. He's very systematic. I've been fortunate enough to speak with him numerous times. There's good chemistry. The teamwork is there. They love each other. The locker room is very strong. It's literally, I think, intensity, maybe for the players, something that maybe Greg can manage himself. Mm-hmm. But when you have a player like Christian Pulisic, I'm fortunate enough to call the last two games for Univision, and that's what I say. Pulisic is just a game changer. Mm-hmm. He'll change it up for you. He did that today with Weston. There's no question he's a different player. He's the Landon Donovan in its day. He's the Clint Dempsey in his day. And if we didn't have Christian Pulisic, would we be winning games today?
That's a very good question, Ramsey. Not based on what we've seen. And I think that, he comes in and you see his quality right away. You see how he opens up the game. You see, right from the start, too. He had that chance very early on, had the assist on the McKinney goal. I just think that there needs to be more around him. And I'm hoping that for the semifinals, that is what we're going to see.
So I want to put a bow on Curaçao before we get final thoughts on the U.S. This was an incredible tournament for them. Their second Gold Cup, their first Gold Cup wins, their first Gold Cup goals, their first Gold Cup knockout rounds. The next step for them, Nations League. Guess who's in their 3-team group? Costa Rica and Haiti. So they'll have more opportunities to push forward and prove their mettle in CONCACAF, their improvement over the last 5 years as they built out their program. Now I just want to read a couple quotes to you guys from Greg Berhalter's press conference. It's ongoing right now, and then I want your thoughts. Here's what he said, quote, "You guys wanted us to go out there and beat them 5-0. He's speaking of the media, and I assume supporters as well, but we knew it was going to be a difficult game. Quote, "Despite the tone in here, we're happy with the result of this game." What jumps to mind after you hear that?
One, what do you expect the coach to say? All right, they got the result. They could play horribly, but they won. So at the end of the day, we're still moving on. We're still playing. We're part of the competition. Great. I think when he's talking about the media, there's an expectation when you play for the U.S. men's national team, when they step out on the field, that they win with in a certain manner. So I think when you look at 2018 and us not being a part of the World Cup, we weren't getting results and we weren't playing well. This is, okay, we'll get results and we're not playing well. So he's saying it's step by step, we're making it a process. So let's get results first, and then we can worry about how entertaining we are and how dominant we are. But let's just advance. That's the first part, is winning games, getting results, and then let the rest take care of it as we progress. But I think this is a new coach, new system, and guys are trying to learn on the fly. As you saw in games, guys are still thinking about where I should be and how am I supposed to combine with the front three. But this is progress in the sense that we're getting results. We're getting results, and that's all I could ask for as a U.S. men's national team fan and a former player. I just want to see us win. And then we could talk about, was it exciting? Were there many shots and goals? And this Jamaica game, I think we're going to see a different team, a team that's fired up and plays with that intensity.
Yeah.
Final thoughts?
Well, so one, I just want to point out that we probably didn't give Curaçao enough credit throughout the show, and we apologize for that. We're naturally going to be more interested in what the U.S. men's national team did right and wrong. We should have given them more credit. And I understand what Charlie's saying about you need to find a way to win. And you look at the history of Gold Cup, and there's always championship teams, including Mexico, Costa Rica, the United States, who barely survive in these games. But I think if you were to really put truth serum to Greg, he would acknowledge that this performance wasn't good enough. It was barely progress, and they have to show more improvement in the next game.
The only progress, the result, good, yeah, they moved on. But the only real progress can come from rewatching the tape and learning what not to do. I honestly believe that from a performance like this, and that's fine. Like to have a performance like that and still get the result and still get into the semifinals, that's great. But it's just reinforcement of what we learned in those friendlies. Like if we're going to lose the physical battle in midfield, we're going to be easy to play against. And if you give any team that much confidence, let them knock the ball around, you're going to have a bad day.
Doesn't matter what you think of the performance right now. The U.S. won. They're moving on. 1-0 against Curaçao. Weston McKennie with his second international goal. Christian Pulisic with the assist, of course. We will be back on Wednesday for U.S. Jamaica. Oh, the rematch from 2015. That one did not go the U.S.'s way. We're hoping it goes the other way this time around. The pregame starts at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Club and Country, MLSsoccer.com, the MLS app, Twitter, and Facebook. Can join us. Hit us up with your thoughts. Let us know what you're thinking. Extra Time, driven by Continental, is tomorrow. We will dig into this result even more with Charlie Davies and the boys. For Andrew Wiebe, Charlie Davies, Matt Doyle, Bobby Warshaw, our producer, Chris Karen, and everyone else who helped make this production, we're out of here to watch more soccer. Dallas, Portland, on right now. Matchday Central coming up in just a bit, everybody. Enjoy your Sunday night.